Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to the Operation Freedom platform and our ongoing series with the great Dr. Peter Glidden on your health and your wellness. Today, we're going to tackle an issue that we've touched on before in the past, but we're going to go into more depth, much because of you, our listeners, asking us questions and wanting to know more about the subject. And it's about cholesterol, facts versus the fictions. Many facts and a whole lot of fiction when it comes to cholesterol, and we're gonna address these issues, much to the chagrin of the big pharmaceutical industry. They are not a fan of this series of shows that we've done. This is now about our 34th, 35th show. They're all available on operationfreedomhealth.com. They're also available on davejanda.com. Full disclosure, the products that we speak about on this platform are available at operationfreedomhealth.com. And the purchase of those products from operationfreedomhealth.com does lend support to this platform so that we continue these series. That again, the medical industrial complex, and in that group, I consider the AMA, big pharmaceutical industry, big insurance industry, the HMO industry, a big government that is not fan of this series, because this series is about providing you information to empower you, to educate you, to, if you will, focus on your healthcare freedom and independence from the system itself. A little background on Peter Glidden. Peter was educated at Williams College and then obtained his Bachelor of Science degree in pre-medical studies from the great University of Massachusetts, then obtained his medical degree in naturopathic medicine from the great Bastyr University outside of Seattle, that at the time, the country of Chaz was not in existence at that point. Probably won't be for too much longer anyway. Peter is currently in private practice in naturopathic medicine, has been licensed to do so since 1992. In addition to Peter being an outstanding clinician and researcher, Peter is a fantastic author. And I encourage you to get his two books. They are the foundation of our medical library. They should be the foundation of yours. They're available on Amazon.com. The name of the books: Everybody is Sick and I Know Why, and Attempt a Cure with Holistic Medicine. It's my honor to welcome back my friend, Peter Glidden. Peter, welcome back to the Operation Freedom platform.
Always a pleasure, Dave. And yes, I can tell you that when I was in Seattle, it was from like 1986 until right around the end of the century. It was a completely different place. I can't imagine what it's like now. There is an interesting trend that's happened in Seattle that not a lot of people are talking about it. Tucker Carlson's been talking about it a lot, but the homeless population in Seattle. There always were homeless people in Seattle because of the climate. It had a relatively mild winter climate, rarely got below 40 degrees. Rained all the time, but there wasn't a lot of snow, wasn't a lot of freezing cold, right? So there was a big homeless population. But a number of years ago, the local government passed an ordinance that said that state parks you could camp in state parks. And every neighborhood in Seattle has its own little park. And they were beautiful aspects to the kind of patchwork architecture of the city itself. It was great. You know, you'd go a couple blocks, there'd be another park. You're in another neighborhood, there's another park. It was great. Now, not so great. All of those parks, which were beautiful little gems in the fabric of Seattle, they were all completely dominated by the homeless. It's crazy because you can camp out now in those parks. The cops can't come and, kick you out. If you're there, you're there, and you have to just roll with it. It's a big, big problem. But that's, I guess, the function of liberal leaning society. I just really don't understand how that societal architecture can persist, because if I lived there, right, I'd pitch a fit. Because, I'm paying taxes, I'm supporting the economy, I'm doing my fair share, and now I have to deal with this? You've got to be kidding me. I don't understand how the silent majority stays silent for as long as they have in Seattle, but I have to tell you, they're getting exactly what they deserve.
And hopefully, as time goes on, that obviously the the rights of those that are being abused in that area are going to be stopped. Just the other day, obviously, at the time of this recording, the mayor hasn't moved yet, but the mayor all of a sudden found religion and decided that this free country of Chaz was needed to come to an end. So we shall see.
We
So
shall see.
so now, since we're speaking of seeing, let's help folks see the light on cholesterol, the facts versus the fiction.
Well, see, the problem here is we need to put this in a correct frame of reference, that the problem that exists in the scientific community is a problem of cognitive dissonance and monopolization. And this happens in all scientific disciplines, not just the medical discipline. However, it's more apparent in the medical discipline because of the influence of the pharmaceutical industry on all things medical research. So, if there are 100 studies published and 95 of them show that cholesterol is perfectly fine, but 5 of them show that, well, there's maybe a little bit of a problem here, a little bit of a problem there, so we need statin drugs, then those studies are going to get published. The other 95 are not. They're never going to see the light of day.
Mm-hmm.
And then in academia, if you're the head of a university research department, you're getting funding. And you're not going to fund research that goes against the prevailing financial interests. And the prevailing financial interests here are always with the pharmaceutical industry, right? And,
Right.
Thank God for insulin, and thank God for a handful of antibiotics and general anesthesia, and all that stuff is good. It's not the drug, it's how it's used, and whether or not it in fact is good or not, well, the data are in. Statin drugs are bad for you. Statin drugs do have a minimal impact on heart disease, but that minimal impact has nothing to do, interestingly enough, with the lowering of cholesterol. And the side effects that the statin drugs produce way outweigh their benefits. But because I think last year, in across the entire spectrum of pharmacopoeia, with $25 billion in statin drugs were sold last year. So that part of conventional medicine is not going to go easily into the night, even though the research, it keeps piling up that there's no relationship between cholesterol and heart disease. Let me say that again. There's no relationship between cholesterol and heart disease. Statin drugs don't make a difference in the genesis of heart disease. And interestingly enough, just as many people who die from heart disease have low cholesterol as who die from high cholesterol. Research has clearly showed that if you're, for instance, a postmenopausal white woman and you have a total cholesterol over 400,
Mm-hmm.
right, and the conventional wisdom is you have to keep it below 200.
Correct.
But the research shows if you're a postmenopausal white woman and it's over 400, you're going to live longer. So not only are the current recommendations regarding cholesterol levels wrong, but they're stupidly wrong. I mean, they're not just a little bit wrong. They are really, really, really wrong. And we're going to look back at this, the same way that we look back at bloodletting years ago. But again, Big Pharma is not going to go easily into the night. Now, there's one more interesting point to ponder here, right? The naturopathic philosophy leans upon the fundamental belief that the human body knows how to fix itself. The human body wants to fix itself. The human body's trying to fix itself. And it becomes the job of the holistic physician to develop and deliver therapeutics that support and promote all that, right? Now, interestingly enough, the body makes 3 to 4 times as much cholesterol as it goes down the hatch. Cholesterol is so important to the human body makes it. And it doesn't just make a little bit of it, it makes a lot of it. 75% of our nervous system is made from cholesterol. 95% of the part of the brain that's affected by Alzheimer's is made from cholesterol. all of the cells of all the walls of every cell in the body are made from cholesterol. All of the hormones in the human body are made from cholesterol. It is an extremely important nutrient. And when you indiscriminately, willy-nilly, because Big Pharma says so, drive cholesterol into the ditch with statin drugs and exercise, and fat-free diets, guess what's going to happen? Well, you're going to accelerate Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm.
And this is exactly what we've seen. A couple years after the first statin drugs were introduced into the marketplace in the 80s, Alzheimer's came out of nowhere and started skyrocketing. And it's been on an ascendant curve ever since. And I and my colleagues are of the opinion that Alzheimer's is a physician-created disease. It's mostly driven by statin drug use. And it's a travesty. And when you start digging down into the data, the actual published research around statin drugs and the whole cholesterol thing, it is exactly the opposite. It's not just 20 degrees off or 25 degrees off or 40 degrees off. It's 180 degrees off of what the current recommendations are. And the irony here is all of these data are published in peer-reviewed medical journals. This is not, a crazy holistic doctor standing on a hill somewhere waving a flag. This is, just look at the research, ladies and gentlemen. For goodness sakes, let's just take a look at the research. But since medical doctors are so busy, most don't have time to follow the research. And they have to dig for this research, by the way, because it's not going to be front page in the New England Journal of Medicine. But nonetheless, it's there. There's a Russian doctor named Ufi Ravenskov. Interesting guy. Members of this listening audience should go to his website. It's Ravenskov, RAVNSKOV.NU, Ravenskov.NU. And Dr. Ravenskov has all of the research on his website. It picks this stuff apart to the bone in detail. And if you read it, you'll be horrified and you will never trust the pharmaceutical industry again.
So, Peter, how should folks handle the issue of cholesterol when they speak to their family practice doc or their internist that still is on the page that statins are the right thing for them and their blood cholesterol levels should be, well, let's try to get it as low as we can get it, as opposed to, let it take its own course?
Well, there's no, what do you do? I mean, you can't change City Hall. I mean, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Dr. Ravenskov's website has a number of different resources with books that have been published regarding all these issues. I suppose you could arm yourself with the data. You could go to your doctor's office and you could say, look, the research has been done. There's no relationship between cholesterol and heart disease. And I want to know why you don't know that. I really want to know why you don't know that and what's going on. But most people, right? Mm-hmm. And, thank God for Dave Jand. I would have loved to have been your patient because you're an open-minded, compassionate guy, and they're going to listen to what the patient says. Most doctors are not like that, Dave.
No, I know.
Most doctors are not going to listen to what their patients say. They're going to believe whatever they want to believe because that's what they believe, because they were taught it in medical school, and that's what the pharmaceutical rep says, and damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. I've got 20 more people in the waiting room. Let's go. Right? So I honestly don't think there's any talking to these people. So my advice, if your medical doctor told you that in order to fix your arthritis, you had to go to the top of the hospital and jump off the roof, right?
Yeah.
You would find a different doctor.
Right.
Because there's no talking to that nonsense. So if your conventional medical doctor, ladies and gentlemen, is of the opinion that you need to lower cholesterol, they are not staying current with the literature. They're academically lazy. They're probably a little professionally cowardly, right? And they're going to toe the big pharma line rather than toe the what's good for the patient line. They're not going to stand up against corruption like you did with the whole Vioxx thing, or blow the whistle on insurance fraud. Most medical professionals aren't going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. So this is a big deal, you know, and I'm somewhat outspoken, but I have to tell you, if your medical professional is telling you that high cholesterol is a bad thing, you need to find another medical professional who's current with the research, and good luck doing that. Now, there is, you know, naturopathic medicine is licensed and regulated in 20 states. There's a website, the Naturopathic Medicine Institute, that you can go to that has a running list of naturopathic doctors, and maybe there's one in your state that you can go to. You can also do a Google search for functional medicine doctors, because in the wonderful world of medicine in the United States, there is a whole subset of medical doctors who are learning the naturopathic method and alternative methods and holistic methods, and it's not perfect, but it's better than a conventional medical doctor who's got their head in the sand, who kowtows to big pharma, for goodness sakes. So do a Google search for functional medicine doctors, find a functional medicine doctor in your area, and maybe you'll get lucky and you'll find one who just knows the truth of things. And the truth of the things is cholesterol is your best friend. You do not need to be worried about high cholesterol. And the first drug that you need to stop taking are statin drugs. And if I were you, I would just go to my pharmacist tomorrow and I'd say, look, I don't want to take my statin drugs anymore. How do I get off of them? The pharmacist will tell you a reduction schedule, and that's the way that it is, because statin drugs are big, bad voodoo medicine, bad for you, same way that proton pump inhibitors are, and they should be avoided at all costs.
Well, you know, Peter, I first encountered the issue with statin drugs. My dad was on a statin drug decades ago, and he developed significant musculoskeletal problems. Started doing some research into it, and there were some very brave researchers at the time, this is 30 years ago, that were speaking about the adverse musculoskeletal effects that were associated with statin medications. So I told my dad, I said, I think this is the cause of your issues. And he stopped them. And it's interesting, it took months for the symptoms to really clear, but he noticed a positive effect within a week, but noticed that he continued to gain as far as a reduction in his symptoms with his musculoskeletal issues for about 3 months.
Well, you can blow up a building in a minute, but, you know, it takes months to build it. And this is what we're up against in the holistic medical community, because we are supporting the body's ability to fix itself. And that's a marathon, it's not a sprint, right? It takes time. You don't plant a tomato seed on Monday and expect to be eating a tomato on Friday. But you do expect to see the little plant grow. You do expect to see change, right? A little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit there. And honest to God, Dave, it's the only reason that my profession still exists, is because most of the time it's not a perfect panacea cure-all for all human ills, but it's a very sophisticated, cutting-edge, science-based, clinically verified set of strategies. And the only reason that my profession still exists is because more often than not, we get results.
So Peter, they talk to their pharmacist, hopefully they're open-minded internist, if you will, and they go on a reduction schedule for their statins. Is there something they should put in that statin's place to help with their overall health and well-being?
Well, there's nothing that needs to replace the statin, because the statin was a bad thing to begin with, right?
Right. Essentially to counteract what the statin did to folks.
Yes, eat a stick of butter a day. I mean, honest to God, cholesterol, do not be afraid of foods that are high in cholesterol. Do not be afraid of foods that are high in cholesterol. Cholesterol is good for you. Eat full-fat milk instead of skim milk or no-fat milk. Eat full-fat yogurt. Eat full-fat cheese. Fat does not make people fat. Concentrate on food that's high in cholesterol, like animal fat, chicken with the skin, right? Fatty fish. Interesting thing, there was a French paradox years ago The CIA, for whatever reason, the CIA keeps records of the longevity of people in different countries around the world. I don't know why they do it, but they do it. You can Google it right now. For years, the French were number one, the longest lived people in the world. And it was called the French paradox by epidemiologists because they couldn't flip and figure it out. Well, cholesterol is bad for you, but the French, what do the French eat? Butter and cream and butter and cream and cheese, and then more butter and then more cream, and then more fat, and then more lard, and then more cream. Oh, red wine is bad for you. What do the French do? Red wine all the time, right? All the things that were supposed to be bad for you, the French did all of the time, and they were the healthiest people in the world. Why is that? Because none of those foods are in fact bad for you. The mainstream medicine, and this whole thing was started by a medical doctor named Ansel Keys. That's a whole nother story. But it's wrong. It was wrong. It wasn't just a little wrong. It was a lot wrong. And 2 + 2 does not equal 5. It equals 4, right? So what do we need to do? Well, there are, in fact, a bunch of foods, 10 foods. Well, we've done 12 foods now, 12 foods that will hurt you if you eat them on a regular basis. And that list is available on the website and it's free. So number 1, don't eat the 12 bad foods. Number 2, don't be afraid of cholesterol. Don't be afraid of food that's high in fat. Go for it. Number 3, salt your food so that it tastes good. Number 4, get the foundation pack into your body on a regular basis because that stuff, those 4 products provide the essential nutrients that are missing in the food. The raw materials that your body needs to fix itself are present in the supplements, and that's a slam dunk. And the last thing to do here is increase your consumption of foods or nutritional supplements that are high in antioxidant activity. Because we are of the opinion that it is oxidative stress, free radical damage in the body, oxidative stress, which is a leading contributor to coronary heart disease, atherosclerosis. And that's a really interesting thing to talk about, if I could just segue here for 10 seconds.
Please do.
As above, so below in the human body, right? It's not any different than out there in the world. And if you're a hiker and you're out in nature and you look at rivers, you'll see an interesting phenomenon. That at the bend of the river, there's always a little beach. Because fluid dynamics, the silt builds up where the river bends, which then in turn makes the river bend more, right? But the fluid dynamics moves the stuff down the river and it builds up when the river takes a curve. If what I would like you to do, Dave, is if you're still in touch with any of your buddies who do autopsies, all right, maybe cardiac surgeons, right? You want to ask them, when they're looking at atherosclerotic plaque buildup in an artery, where does it begin? And 100% of the time, atherosclerotic plaque formation starts where the artery bends. And it spreads out from there. It never happens on a straight run. It always starts where the artery bends. Why is that? Well, the theory is that you eat all the wrong foods. Your body needs this many nutrients. It only has this many nutrients. So your body isn't able to handle the inflammatory stuff that's in the food. So now there's little particles of inflammation in the blood. They're called free radicals. And it's just like sand being carried by the river. So they're in the bloodstream. And guess what? They pile up at the bend of the river. And what do? They cause inflammation where they're piling up. And the body's smart. The body knows there's inflammation happening there. So what does the body do? Well, it puts a bandage over it so you're not going to bleed to death in the middle of the night, because that's what's going to happen if that continues. So what does the body use to patch the inflammation? What it's got a boatload of? Cholesterol.
Cholesterol, right.
So now you got a little cholesterol patch, which causes more of a bend and more free radicals build up there, and it spreads out from there. And so we're of the opinion that atherosclerotic buildup in arteries is due to free radicals, and a weak fire department in the human body. So how do you fight that? Well, you stop eating food that's loaded with free radicals, number 1. That's a good idea. Number 2, you give the fire department of your body the stuff it needs to handle that stress. And number three, you you consume antioxidants, because antioxidants, foods and herbs that are high in antioxidant activity, help the body to deal with that process. Because unless you live in a bubble,
Mhm.
you're going to be exposed to inflammatory stuff and free radicals just from walking down the street, inhaling automobile exhaust, and so forth and so on. So your body, you need to strengthen the fire department of your body. And how do we do that? We add selenium to the foundation pack, and then anything else that you want that's high in antioxidants. Longevity makes a really wonderful product called Z Radical. It's high in antioxidant activity. The good herbs, antioxidant response, right?
Mhm.
Really high in antioxidants. I think the easiest way to deal with that is with extra selenium and omega-3 essential fatty acids. This is the Prohoba Omegas, right? The Prohoba Omegas, which is part of the foundation pack.
Mhm.
When you swallow that stuff, you're introducing antioxidants into the body, and it's anti-inflammatory. So, as an experiment, double the amount of Prohoba Omegas that you take on a daily basis for 4 weeks and see if your aches and pains are better. See if your stiffness is better. See if the little skin rash that you've been dealing with gets better, right? Just look to see. Increase your antioxidant activity in the human body, and start a love affair with cholesterol, and it will, in fact, change your life.
Peter, the 12 bad food video is on operationfreedomhealth.com. And the foundation pack, which you spoke about, of which the essential fatty acids are a part of, is also available on operationfreedomhealth.com. And is the selenium is also available on operationfreedomhealth.com.
Yeah, that's why we do this, right? Because and purchase of those supplements supports Dr. Janda's whole thing, right? Because this doesn't happen for free.
Yeah.
We have to support this some way. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to support it by providing people nutrients that actually make a difference clinically, stuff that the body needs. And not all nutritional supplements are created the same.
No.
All wine is made from grapes, but there's a pretty big difference from bottle to bottle. I've been doing this for 30 years as a licensed naturopath, and the supplements that are available at Operation Freedom Health are the most effective supplements I've seen in 30 years of clinical work that you can get without a prescription. So get with the program, take this stuff, but more importantly, right, educate yourself about what's going on. Because as Dave talks about every day, all the time, the deep state is a real thing. The deep state has big tentacles.
Mm-hmm.
And if you knew a tenth of what I know about the pharmaceutical industry and the shenanigans and the Food and Drug Administration and the American Medical Association, you'd be horrified.
Mm-hmm.
These people do not have your back. You need to take responsibility for your own health right now. Learn as much as you can, and we make it easy. At least we try to make it easy for you. And on this website, riseupintohealth.com, I have available a 45-minute, now it's a 55-minute video. It's a pay-per-view video that talks all about the whole cholesterol thing, lays it out for you from soup to nuts, and the proceeds from that also benefit Operation Freedom Health. So check it out, riseupintohealth.com. Look for the cholesterol video. It's right there. Buy it, watch it, learn, and get everybody in your life to do the same.
And Pete, one last time, the website for the physician in Russia that's done extensive research on cholesterol-related issues.
It's R like Romeo, A like Alpha, V like Victor, N like Nancy, S like Sierra, K like Kilo, O like Oscar, V like Victor, RAVNSKOV.NU, Ravenskov.nu. And I'm warning you now, when you go to that website, you put a big book on your head, because the information on that site is going to make your flipping head explode. and your life will not be the same after you read that information.
And the same goes for your 2 books. I encourage folks to go to Amazon.com. Everybody is sick, and I know why. An attempt to cure with holistic medicine. Peter, I'd like to thank you for everything you have done, are doing, and will do. I'd like to thank you for having the courage to take on the very deep tentacles of the very deep state as it relates to folks' healthcare and healthcare well-being. And because this series is about empowering everyone that's willing to listen and act upon the information we provide. The platform is operationfreedomhealth.com. Thank you, folks, for your time. Until next time, Dave Janda signing off. Dream big and dare to fail.